I was talking with a golfer recently, and he was telling me about how there are some mistakes that he just feels like he shouldn't make. We're really working on him letting go of this fear of making mistakes, along with being able to manage mistakes better when they do happen. And it's that last part, managing mistakes when they do happen, where we were starting to see this idea he has of feeling like there are mistakes he shouldn't make. For yourself, are there mistakes that you feel like you shouldn't be making when you play? And is that thought keeping you from being able to play freely? The golfer and I were talking about moving on from mistakes well, being able to move past one bad shot or one bad hole, refocus, and hit the next shot with full confidence. But sometimes he gets stuck. He gets stuck on the fact that he hit a bad shot, or he made a mistake, or he missed a putt that he doesn't feel like he should miss, right? It's a mistake he doesn't think he should make. And one of the key ones that he's told me about has been short putts. Recently, he's been struggling with short putts, and when he misses them, it's really difficult for him to move past these when he moves on to the next hole. And specifically, when he comes to another short putt within the same round, he ends up feeling more fear because of the previous short putt that he has missed. Now, the truth is, as a high-level golfer, he should be making these short putts, just as a basketball player should make a layup, a pitcher should be able to throw the ball near the zone. But now those shoulds, we have to be very careful with them, because just because you should do something and just because you are skilled to do something does not mean you will do something, right? We have to recognize that mistakes happen. When mistakes like this happen, the most important thing for you as an athlete is to be able to move past the mistake, and that's what he and I are talking about, being able to move past this mistake and refocus for whatever's next. For him, it's the next shot. Now, why is it that you feel that some mistakes shouldn't be made, right? But then we accept that, okay, I might make this other mistake. Because aren't they all just mistakes that can lower your chances of playing well? Yes, but I think the key difference is there are certain mistakes you make that feel so stupid, right? You feel like, I should not have made that mistake. I've practiced that thousands of times, maybe just hundreds of times, but either way, I've practiced that a ton. So why am I making this mistake? I should not be making this mistake. For him, it's the short putt. He sinks them all the time in practice. They are routine. He can do them pretty much with his eyes closed, but then he still misses them during a tournament. It's the fact that these mistakes are so easy. At least they feel like they should be so easy. And it's that feeling of, man, that was so easy. How did I make such a stupid mistake? Which then makes it more difficult to be able to move on. But something he and I have talked about, and something I talk to a lot of athletes about, is that if you make a simple mistake, so if you make a mistake that you don't feel like you should make, doesn't that mean that you should be able to move on quicker? Because the adjustment is very simple. If you know how to make the shot, you know how to sink that short putt, whatever it might be for you. If you know how to do that to the point where you feel it's so easy that you should never make that mistake, if you do end up making the mistake, the adjustment's very quick. The adjustment's very simple. The adjustment is very straightforward. And if you can take that approach, all of a sudden you don't need to get caught up in it and get too frustrated. However, the truth is, when you feel like there are mistakes that you should not make, when you make them during a competition, it's easy to get too frustrated or to get too upset and hold on to them, because in the back of your mind you're thinking, well, I should not have done that in the first place. And it's very hard to be able to move on. And so there are 3 questions that I want you to think about when it comes to making easy mistakes, or mistakes that you should not make. The first question is, why is it a mistake that I shouldn't make? So for this golfer, once again, it's a mistake that he should not make because it's an easy putt for him, or any other mistake during his round. It just feels like it's easy. It's something that he's done so many times that he should not allow himself to make this mistake. And for yourself, if there are these mistakes you feel as though you should not make during games, why is that? Is it because you've practiced it so much? Now, the reason that I start here is because if you identify that the reason a mistake is a mistake I should not make is because I've practiced it so many times, well, I want that to give you confidence that you won't be making this mistake a ton, right? And the reason you want to have that as confidence is because 9 times out of 10, if you make a simple, easy mistake, if you make it more than once, typically the more than once part is due to the reaction you had to that first mistake, more so than it is due to something that's off within your game. Sometimes it is something that's off within your game, but like I said, 9 times out of 10, it will be your reaction. But if you react to it and you think, well, this is something that's really easy, I know I'll be able to fix that. It was just a fluke one time. I've practiced this so much. That's a different perspective to take, and you will have a different reaction. So you first want to identify, why is it a mistake that I feel that I shouldn't make? And most of the time you'll say, well, it's a mistake I shouldn't make because I've practiced this so much. It's something easy for me. If it's something easy for you, it's something that should be easy for you to adjust from, and so you should have confidence moving forward instead of getting so down on yourself moving forward. Now, the next question you want to ask yourself is this thought hurting me? What I mean by that is the thought that I should not make these mistakes actually causing you to make more mistakes? So going back to the golfer example, when he was talking to me about missing these short putts, one thing that stood out was that when he gets to these short putts now, he experiences more tension and he experiences more pressure that he's putting on himself, because in the back of his mind, he is thinking, this is a putt that I should not miss. So for yourself, if there are situations during games or competitions where you find yourself thinking, I should not make this mistake, is that thought putting more tension and pressure on yourself to where you aren't performing freely? If we look at the difference between games and practices, one of the key differences is that practices have a lot less pressure. Practices are where you feel okay to make mistakes, and you don't feel like I have to do things perfectly, because there's not so much of a consequence if you make the mistake, right? And there's not so much of a reward if you play well, because it's practice, not a game. But then when it comes to games, these quote unquote simple things that you do, right? These simple situations, they can be places where you find more pressure, right? You put more pressure, you put more stress on yourself. And so if you do something perfectly during practice, but then all of a sudden in a game, you're having to perform that same skill, but you're having to perform it with increased pressure, that's where we can see a mistake happen, because you might do it with more tension, you might perform it with less confidence, you might perform it more hesitantly. With the golfer, with his short putts, if he tries to sink the putt with more tension, he's not putting as smoothly and confidently as he normally does. Sometimes he also second guesses his line, and so he had a good line and then he second guesses it, and then he ends up hitting it poorly because he was overthinking. All of this stemmed from the initial thought he had of, I should not make this mistake. And then the third question to ask yourself is, how am I reacting to these mistakes? Now, the truth is, I know that there are so many mistakes you might make during games that you feel like you should not make. But once a mistake is made, it doesn't matter if you feel like you should make that mistake or should not make that mistake. You made the mistake. So now you're only left with one option. Put yourself in a better position to play well moving forward. That's it. That's the only thing you need to be focused on at that point after you've made the mistake. But you need to ask yourself, is the way that I'm reacting to these mistakes because I think that this is a mistake I shouldn't make? Is it actually increasing the chances of me making another mistake because I'm getting so frustrated and so down on myself following this initial mistake? And if that's the case, then you have to be very careful and try to change and alter your reaction. Even though it's a mistake that you're frustrated over and you don't feel like you should make, the last thing you want to have happen is a simple mistake turn into multiple mistakes due to your reaction. So in summary, you want to ask yourself, why is this mistake a mistake I feel like I should not make? And that will more than likely point you in the direction of the fact that you've trained this many times and you've done it so well during practice. Use that as confidence instead of a reason to feel down on yourself after that mistake. Question number 2 is ask yourself, is this holding me back? Is the fear of making this mistake or the idea that I should not make this mistake causing me to play tentatively, causing me to hesitate, actually causing me to make more mistakes? And then question number 3 is, how am I reacting to this mistake? You want to be careful that your reaction to this quote unquote simple and easy mistake does not lead to more mistakes. If you have any questions about this video or would like me to cover any other sports psychology topic, please let me know in the comments below. I hope you enjoyed this video, and if you did, please hit that like button and subscribe if you haven't already. I put out new videos each week on sports psychology and mental training.